The Laughing Prince. Once upon a time, in a quiet corner of a vast kingdom, lived a farmer with his 4 children. He had 3 sons and 1 daughter. The eldest son was known far and wide for his sharp intellect. But the youngest son, Stefan, well, he didn't seem to have any particular talent. He was just Stefan. But to his little sister Militza, he was the whole world. She adored his stories, simple tales that always, without fail, made her burst into laughter. He found joy in the rhythm of farm life, working hard from sunrise to sunset, and the animals he cared for seemed to thrive under his gentle hand. The kingdom itself was ruled by a powerful tsar, a man of great authority, but with only 1 child, a daughter. Determined to forge a strong heir, he raised the princess as if she were a son. Tutors taught her history, mathematics, philosophy, and statecraft. But with every passing day, the weight of this constant learning pressed down on the princess. There was never a moment for a joke, never a second to just be a child and play. One afternoon, the pressure became too much. The princess, her spirit finally snapping, slammed her book shut and shouted, "I am a princess. I should have the freedom to do what I want." Her lady-in-waiting, a stern woman with a perpetual frown, sniffed disdainfully. "You talk like the daughter of a common farmer." She retorted, "If only I were." The princess blurted out, her voice filled with a yearning she hadn't realized was there. Unfortunately, the tsar overheard this exchange. His face turned a deep shade of crimson. "Whoa, whoa," he bellowed, a thunderous sound that always echoed through the halls when his fury was unleashed. At that sound, the princess usually froze, her defiance melting away into fear. But not this time. Something had broken within her. She stood her ground, her chin held high, and yelled right back at her father, "I am tired of it. I'm tired of hearing those snoozing-doozing stories from those dusty old men. I want to laugh. I want to have fun." The tsar, now incandescent with rage, pointed a trembling finger toward the door. "Lock this insolent young lady in her room until she apologizes." He roared. The princess, however, walked out with a regal stride, her head held high. Before the guards could reach her door, she turned and snarled, "I'll lock myself up. And I won't eat a single crumb until you send me someone who can actually make me laugh." And she meant it. The hours ticked by. Trays of exquisite food were left untouched outside her door. The princess remained in her room, a silent, stubborn protest against a life devoid of laughter. Finally, as twilight painted the sky, the tsar's anger gave way to a father's concern. He went to her room and found her pale and weak, but her eyes still held a flicker of defiance. "All right," he said, his voice softer now. "You can have anything you want." The princess looked at him, her voice a determined whisper. "I want to be amused. Send someone who can make me laugh." In that moment, the tsar saw his daughter, not as an heir, but as a young girl he had robbed of a happy childhood. A wave of regret washed over him, too. He realized that in his quest to make her a great ruler, he had forgotten to let her be a happy person. He immediately sent his heralds out into every town and village. The proclamation was simple. The tsar was looking for someone who could make the princess laugh. Whoever succeeded would win her hand in marriage and one day rule the kingdom alongside her. This extraordinary news spread like wildfire, eventually reaching the small farm where Stefan and his family lived. When Militza heard it, her eyes lit up. She knew, with the certainty only a loving sister could have, who was perfect for the job. She ran to Stefan, her face beaming. "You have to go, Stefan. You have to go to the palace. You can make anyone laugh." Stefan was hesitant, but Militza's belief in him was infectious. So, with a packed lunch and a heart full of his sister's hope, he set off for the capital. The princess sat listlessly on her chaise lounge as a long line of jesters, comedians, and storytellers tried and failed to elicit even a smile. They told stale jokes, performed clumsy tricks, and recited pompous poems. She was about to give up all hope when the next candidate was announced. Stefan, a farmer's son. When he walked in, the princess was surprised. He wasn't like the others. There was a freshness about him, a genuine warmth in his eyes, and dirt still under his fingernails from the farm. Stefan, for his part, was utterly captivated by the princess's sad, stunning beauty. He didn't start with a joke or a silly dance. He simply began to tell a story from his life on the farm. At first, it seemed like a very strange tale, not funny at all. It was about a stubborn goat, a mischievous chicken, and a pig who thought it was a dog. It was simple and odd, but it was real. The story was so peculiar that it piqued the princess's curiosity. She found herself leaning forward, actually wanting to know what happened next. Seeing he had her attention, Stefan took a bold step. He knelt beside her chaise lounge and whispered so only she could hear. "Even if I make you laugh, you don't have to marry me. Only marry me if you truly want to. I'm only here because of my sister Militza. She wanted me to make you laugh. I think she likes you, and she thinks I like you. And I think I like you too." "Well, go on," the tsar interrupted from his throne, annoyed by the whispering. Stefan stood up and continued his story. He acted out the parts, his voice changing for each animal, his gestures big and clumsy, but full of heart. He told them about the time the goat ate the mare's hat and how the chickens held a meeting on the roof of the barn. As he went on, a small smile began to play on the princess's lips. The smile grew wider and wider, until suddenly, a sound the castle hadn't heard in years erupted from her. It was a laugh. A deep, genuine, beautiful laugh that filled the entire hall. Once the laughter subsided, Stefan bowed politely. He had done what he came to do. "Thank you for your time," he said, turning to leave. The tsar stood up, his voice filled with respect. "Stefan," he called out, "I will reward you handsomely. You made my daughter laugh, and more than that, you did not insist on the prize. You are a good and honorable man. I will never forget what you have done." "But father," a clear voice rang out. It was the princess. She was standing now, her eyes sparkling with a life that had been missing for so long. "I don't want Stefan to go. I want to marry him." She looked her father straight in the eye, her old stubbornness returning, but this time it was fueled by joy, not despair. With unwavering conviction, she added, "If I can't marry Stefan, I will not marry anyone. And what's more, I will stop eating again." The tsar looked from his radiant daughter to the honest young farmer. He saw the truth in his daughter's eyes. He saw the goodness in Stefan had proven himself to be not just a storyteller, but a kind man, a hard worker who wasn't afraid of getting his hands dirty. Perhaps that was exactly what the kingdom needed, not just a scholar, but a man with heart. The tsar smiled. "So be it," he declared. Stefan and the princess were married in a grand ceremony filled with cheers and celebration. And from that day forward, the old, stuffy silence of the castle was replaced by something far more wonderful. It was filled with the sound of laughter, happiness, and the joyful stories of a laughing prince. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tailies to brighten your day. See you next time.